So, I want to read a bit of someone else's work tonight. I don't know if you'll have heard of them, but they're a poet who means a lot to me. Their name's Nanette Bennet. I guess obscure. And the interesting thing for me about them is they only wrote 2 poems in their life. They died about 5 years to the day before I was born, and they were only 48, but anyway. Now, for someone who only wrote 2 poems, they did write a lot. The first poem specifically is, I think, about 8,050 lines long. So I can't obviously read all of it to you, but the second poem is significantly easier to do, though, and it was called, because famously, she wrote this poem, didn't give it a title, and submitted it to be published. And someone thought it was a good idea to set a young poet at the time the job of dividing it up into individual poems, which is why Nanette's second poem was called An Ode to Those Who Would Impose Order on Me, and it's just the word cunt. So, I was saying, I said I had a book of hers. Well, we had the one book of hers growing up, and it was interesting because I didn't exactly read it in order. It was around my whole life, and I would just open it to random pages and see little bits. And it was always interesting getting that experience of not necessarily knowing all of the context, because bits of it were too advanced for me. And it's funny, they say, so one of the facts about Nanette is she spent her entire life identifying as a Dalmatian, as in from the region. And despite the fact her parents were just visiting Split City on holiday, and she was about 3 or 4 days old when they came back to America, she identified as one her whole life. Now, it's just one of those things where she insisted that every little bit was important, even the stuff she didn't remember. And I think about that. Maybe she'd consider what I'm doing kind of sacrilege. And obviously I don't really, well, I never met her. Like I said, she died before I was born. I don't really know her story. We grew up in different times, different bodies, different places. And, sorry, just thinking about it, it does feel weird to present one of her lines. By the way, if you're reading along at home, it's line 5076. Okay, but maybe it loses something without the full context of the poem. Maybe it loses something because I didn't know her. Maybe it's losing something tonight because I'm performing it and she isn't here to perform it. And I don't know, I mean, I hope that the line makes enough sense without the context, because to me, I think it was one of the first lines of hers I think I understood, and it is genuinely, I don't know, I always found it powerful in isolation, even though it has gained more significance the more of hers I've been able to read and understand and disentangle. So, the one poem she ever wrote, one of the 2 poems she ever wrote, which she didn't give a title to, line 5076. No. Thank you.